In today's episode, Magdalena asks, if you have a new company or a new startup in marketing, how do you get started with no data? This is a very common question, and not only for new companies or new startups, although certainly that's probably the most common case. It was the case when Katie Robert and I started up Trust Insights a little over a year ago. But it's also a situation that is common for people who are coming into an organization where the data may not be reliable, may not be trustworthy, your analytics software may not be configured correctly, and so you are effectively still starting from ground zero. So how do you deal with a situation like this? Well, the first thing to do, of course, is to immediately fix up and start collecting good data. So if you come into an organization or a startup or whatever the case may be, and you don't have the basics in place like Google Analytics, Google Tag Manager, and Google Data Studio, all the things that are essentials for today's marketing, you clearly want to do that first. You want to start collecting data as quickly as you can. After you've gotten the basics of your own data underway, the next step is to start bringing in credible third-party data to supplement your own data until you have enough of your own to build successful models. So there are a number of different data sources that are available to marketers that, regardless of when you start in a company or an organization, the data is already out there. It's already good or good enough. And you can begin building models and understanding intent and things like that from that data. So what are those data sources? Number one, search data is essential. Search data is essential because, generally speaking, people are searching for things around the clock anywhere in the world that they have internet access. And that data is typically highly structured. If you're using from a very simple tool like Google Trends to sophisticated SEO tools like Ahrefs, which is the one that I recommend, and they are a participating sponsor of Marketing Over Coffee. So disclosure, they do spend money with us. You can download massive amounts of SEO data, search data, what terms are being most searched for, what keywords, what phrases, what topics, what articles, what's any kind of information that is URL based. You can get from professional SEO tools. And that information is typically very good at being longitudinal, meaning you can get it over time, and it is highly structured. It comes out in beautiful, CSVs or spreadsheets, and you can begin working with it immediately. So for any marketer, I would say search data is where you have to start. What are people searching for in your industry? I have never run into an industry where the intended audience never searched for anything. That has never once happened yet, so that's a good place to start. A second place would be public social media data, conversations, topics, things like that. You can use tools like TalkWalker, which I use a lot, and Brand24, which I also use a lot. Both of them are great tools for pulling social data about specific topics of discussion. Now, unlike search data, some industries, there won't be a ton of social media data if there are topics that, frankly, are too sensitive to be discussed or may not be available in social media monitoring tools. Cybersecurity is a really good example. A lot of the best discussions in cybersecurity don't happen in public forums. They happen in private, closed groups, and unless you are a member of those groups already, you're not getting in. So that's a case where you will want to supplement it with other types of data. A third data repository, there are public data repositories out there like data.world, data.gov, which is a lot of U.S. data. There's hundreds of thousands of data sets when the government isn't shut down. And Kaggle.com is another great resource. There's tons of great publicly available, licensed for public use data sets that you can download and walk through that, again, for almost every industry available. The exception there would be there's not a ton of sensitive national security data publicly available for a very good reason. So that would be a case where you would have to resort to other data sources. Number 4 is survey data. you can collect, and you should be collecting survey data on a regular, frequent basis. Survey data is essential because it allows you to start asking people why. Why are certain things important? We just ran a survey at Trust Insights, one of our quarterly surveys, asking people what their biggest pain point was and why. And it's open-ended questions. Using stats tools like R and stuff, we can parse those open-ended questions and turn them into structured data. But survey data is very, very useful. And if you're coming into, especially an organization where there are customers, there's mailing lists and things, and there isn't good analytical data, survey data is a great way to get off to the races, because you can just send it to your organization's database and say, hey, what are the top issues on your mind? And that will give you some really useful insights and starting points. It can also be a way for you to validate the data you have. Asking people to update their profiles, for example. Not only will you get, obviously, those people who are still interested in communicating with you, but then you'll be able to clean up some of your data. And finally would be any other harvestable data that you have rights to. That can be things like podcast data. That can be anything internal, CRM data. It can be customer service data. There's a good chance, unless your company is literally brand new, that there is harvestable data within your organization to work with. Now, if you are completely and totally brand new, then other content marketing data may be useful. Other industry data may be useful. Almost every democratic society on the planet has a government that is publishing data that is available for download. And even, frankly, some governments that are not democratic still publish a lot of data that is accessible, that you can work with, and you can practice with as well. So if you're starting over, if you've got something new from a data perspective, there's a ton out there. Google for it. The magic term, the magic word when you Google for data is data set. So asking for data about, for example, the laundry industry. You wouldn't necessarily just start like, laundry service data. You want a laundry service data set, one word, that data set word, because that's something that folks who are compiling and publishing data tend to use more. So that's a useful little tip to help you with that. So great question. It's a frequent one. Remember that you are surrounded by data. There's no shortage of it out there. You just have to know how to go find it, bring it in, and start analyzing it. As always, please leave comments in the comments box below, and subscribe to the YouTube channel and the newsletter, and I'll talk to you soon. Want help solving your company's data, analytics, and digital marketing problems? Visit trustinsights.ai today and let us know how we can help you.